breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via link from the Score North website. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson, does a great job getting our show together, getting our clips, even the coach's press conference that just ended, AJ. And in that press conference, some somber news as far as the Vikings on quarterback J.J. McCarthy's sprained ankle he sustained in the game last night. And the coach says that he anticipates him not being able to go this Sunday against the Bengals, coming off a shaky performance for JJ in game 2 against Atlanta, partially due, of course, to all the injuries on the offensive line, missing Christian Darrisaw going into the game. Then Ryan Kelly gets hurt. School, the backup tackle, gets hurt. They're down to their third tackle, Walter Rouse, and he gets a holding penalty on his first snap that nullifies a nice gain by Jordan Mason. It was just kind of a fiasco night all around for the Vikings, other than the defense really kind of standing up and holding in the red zone, although they allowed a ton of yards on the ground, but they stood up pretty well, held Atlanta to 5 field goals until that last touchdown that they let Algier walk in because they wanted to get the ball back. So kind of a crazy night. Not really what we anticipated, especially after the Vikings kind of torched Atlanta's secondary last year, but their pass rush is so much better this year. 2 first-round picks they added. Both of those rookies had sacks last night. 6 sacks on McCarthy, 16 pressures, 53.5% of his dropbacks he was pressured, and then he made some bad throws beside that. A couple interceptions, which the first one, AJ, I'm not necessarily going to blame him for because Jalen Naylor kind of fell down, but he did throw into coverage. And the second one, Justin Jefferson was held on. But overall, a disappointing night in the home opener before a really raucous, enthusiastic crowd. They tried to will the team on and just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, but it's one that I think they're going to look to forget. I mean, if you look at it, I'll put it this way, Jeff. If you're going to make a documentary about J.J. McCarthy's career, you need some ups and downs. So a week 2 loss where he didn't look that great, where we find out he has a high-grade ankle sprain, suffered on that one run where he stretched for a first down. It's one where you can't expect a guy who is that good to just continue being that good. You look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that's a guy who, if my memory serves correct, he didn't lose a game besides one in high school. I don't think he lost besides maybe one in college. And now look at him, like he still is growing. He still is, and it's, it's very different circumstances too. It's not number 1 pick versus 10th overall pick. It's very different franchises. But you got to expect that what you saw from the fourth quarter of week 1 will come out and emerge for JJ McCarthy again. But obviously first you got to hope that he can circle back around to being 100% healthy. Yeah,
definitely. And I've said all along that I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a top NFL quarterback, a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Eventually, he's 22 years old.
Exactly.
And at this point, there are going to be growing pains. And I think we saw that in full force in the Atlanta game and parts of the Bears game. He's had 2 career starts, which Chris Collinsworth pointed out several times last night. And so I guess you need to cut him some slack. But when you're an NFL quarterback and you're leading a team, a veteran team with playoff aspirations and maybe Super Bowl aspirations and division title, all those things, it's the quarterback's responsibility to come through, make good decisions, not hold the ball as he did on several of those sacks. But I'll tell you what really is inexcusable, AJ, when 2 of the sacks are by unblocked players, completely unblocked, coming in scot-free, And the first one was by Leonard Floyd, who is only their top pass rusher. And why you would not block him, I don't understand that. And then the second one by Zach Harrison to cause the forced fumble. On that play, Brian O'Neill slides inside and double teams a guy with Will Fries while Harrison is untouched and buries McCarthy and forces that fumble, which might have been the biggest play of the game. Other than when the Vikings blew the first and goal at the 2-yard line, which we'll talk about. But on that play, it's the first play of the fourth quarter. McCarthy, the Vikings have just stopped the Falcons, get the ball back at their own 48, great field position. They're down 6 at that point. And we're thinking, okay, here we go. JJ, here's your fourth quarter like you did in Chicago. And then first play fumble, and down the field, Atlanta goes or didn't go very far because Parker Romo, the ex-Viking kicker, kicks a 54-yarder, and now all of a sudden you're down 9 and reeling at that point. So it was just kind of a game where not much went right especially for the Vikings offense. The defense tried to hold them in, but let's go to a couple of audio highlights of the game, and we'll kind of touch on some of these key plays that happened early in the game. Late first quarter, Michael Penix, and this is a defensive highlight for the Vikings. Michael Penix completes the pass to Drake London, fumble forced by Eric Wilson, recovered by Theo Jackson.
And the fake by Penix, and the throw is caught, spinning. Wants the football. Vikings have it on the bounce, scooped up by Theo Jackson. Eric Wilson knocked it out.
And how good has he been so far, Jeff? I mean, stepping in last week, now he steps into an even bigger role with some more people out on the Vikings defensive side of things. And what an impact player Eric Wilson has had now through just 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, he has been, but I think really the Vikings as a whole defensively struggled against the run, as we mentioned in the game, over 220 yards rushing. Bijan Robinson, who is a heck of a back, by the way.
Yes.
He has some amazing runs, but he goes for 143, and Ivan Pace a couple times missed tackles on him in the hole that could have stopped for basically little gain, and Eric Wilson part of that run defense too. But you're right, he has stepped in for Blake Cashman, but they really miss Cashman, and it's one of the points you really have to make is it's so difficult in the NFL to overcome injuries to key players, and the Vikings in the Atlanta game were missing basically 8 starters at either before the game or during the game. Christian Darrisaw has been really missed. School just isn't good enough. And Walter Rouse struggled when he came in. Then Ryan Kelly goes out with a concussion, their center, and Jurgens comes in and he's shaky. and then you think about, well, Jordan Addison's still not there. Aaron Jones was out at the end with a hamstring, even though Jordan Mason may be the better back right now. And then on defense, no Harrison Smith, no Van Ginkel, no Cashman, Jeff Okudah, their third corner's out. That is a lot of good players missing from a lineup. But it also tells us you've got to have great depth. You have to have quality depth on a team. Yeah. And that's where maybe some of the recent drafts, or they haven't been able to have enough players make the team. That's hurt the cause there too. But I think when they get healthy, they will be a contender, certainly in the division, and we'll see what happens from there. But McCarthy had some good moments, had some bad moments in this game, but had some good moments. And here was one of the big moments, kind of shockingly, with 12 seconds left in the first half, completes this 50-yarder to Justin Jefferson.
12 seconds remaining. Atlanta bringing 5. McCarthy trying to load up and throw down the middle. There's Jefferson. JJ to the 33-yard line with time.
The hope was he was going to score.
Yeah.
Which they needed to have happen since they never scored a touchdown, but couldn't quite break completely free. That would have been unbelievable, but certainly a huge play, set up a Will Reichard 51-yard field goal. And we're all thinking, hey, it's a repeat of Chicago, where Jalen Naylor caught the 28-yarder at the end of the first half, setting up Reichard's 59-yard field goal. And the Vikings kind of took off from there, but not to be on this particular night. Fourth quarter, I mentioned before, huge play. McCarthy, first play of the fourth quarter, sacked by Zach Harrison, fumble, as the Vikings look like they have a chance to make a move.
Can he bookend the week with another big quarter? Not starting right there. It falls out and recovered by Divine Diablo. Unbelievable.
And I think Chris Collinsworth's comment right there that I strategically left in was exactly, I think, the thought process of every Vikings fan. Like, okay, we just watched 3 quarters of blah, like beige football, nothing's good. It was the football equivalent, Jeff, of like a sloppy Joe where you get a couple good bites here and there, but otherwise it's falling all over. It's leaking out of the back of the bun. The fourth quarter, maybe we can repeat it. First play, like you said, just unguarded right into JJ, fumble, lost. And that, I mean, for a game that ended 22-5 or 22-6 rather, excuse me, for the most part was very much within range for the Vikings. They need to establish 1 drive, 2 drives, and all of a sudden they're knocking on the door. They're maybe even back taking a lead. But that play right there was about as close, I think, to a dagger as you could have gotten to start that fourth quarter.
Yeah, it definitely was for sure. And then another dagger. The Vikings, that fumble set up another field goal by Parker Romer. The ex-Viking went 5 for 5 to stick it to his former team. Reichert was fine; he made 2, but that puts the lead to 9 points. And then on the ensuing drive, McCarthy 3rd and 1. This play was like, oh no.
All those players who've gotten to McCarthy, they're in the gun here on 3rd and 1. Falcons bringing pressure, picked up. McCarthy downfield, overshoots. Jalen Naylor had a step.
Yeah, he kind of overshot him by more than a step.
Yeah, that was very generous based on the commentary.
Yeah, definitely. But again, you got to make that play. You got to hit that play.
Mm-hmm.
Naylor's got a couple of steps on the defender. He's going to score. Would it be a 72-yard touchdown? Would have put the Vikings within 2 points, changed the momentum in the game. And then after that, on 4th and 1, Kevin O'Connell decides to punt because previously on 4th and 1, JJ had fumbled the ball and they got stopped. So he didn't want to go there again. And as we mentioned, the last drive, here's the touchdown by Tyler Algier, and the Vikings kind of did an ole here, let him walk in because they wanted to save time on the clock. It was their only chance.
And Algier walks into the end zone for the game's first touchdown.
First touchdown with about 2.5 minutes left. But you're exactly right. They let him waltz in, but with how the offense was kind of going at that point, did you feel like there was any sliver of hope, maybe chance that all of a sudden they're going to get a drive going, they're going to score in a quick play, and then maybe they can set up an onside kick to get the ball back? Or were you thinking like, let's just get the clock to 0?
I thought it was very bleak, more bleak than Chicago.
Oh, big time.
And then JJ threw the interception with 2:50 left. One of the key plays on that drive, and the Vikings had penalty problems last night. 8 penalties for 50 yards, and the biggest penalty in the game was on 4th and 1. And Jalen Redmond, who's played really well in his second season, has earned a starting job. They traded Harrison Phillips, but you cannot jump offside on 4th and 1 with 4 minutes to go. And that really basically quenched it for Atlanta at that point, because then they could run the clock down. The Vikings had to use all their timeouts. And as I said, on the next drive, then McCarthy throws the interception where Jefferson's held on the play. And so just as we said, Vikings now 1-1 heading into this game with Cincinnati, but with big concerns injury-wise kind of across the board, but primarily now at quarterback. But before we hear from Kevin O'Connell and McCarthy, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. GMC trucks weren't built overnight. Like every American achievement, they are a result of dedication to mastering the art of design and the science of engineering to building upon prior knowledge year after year, decade after decade. GMC, over 100 years dedicated to the art of engineering and the ambition to always move this country forward. We are professional grade. Well-qualified buyers get 0% APR on 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 Crew Cab models with a 5.3-liter engine with an average finance savings of $4,322 plus $1,500 bonus cash. That's a total value over $5,800 plus no monthly payments until next year. See your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited, deferred monthly payments for 120 days. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from data financing. Some customers will not qualify. Savings based on bank rate of 5.64%. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/25. Kevin O'Connell talked today, and AJ did a great job of pulling this clip at the last minute, but talking about the injury to JJ McCarthy that we didn't know last night was as serious as it is, but it's not going to be a long-term deal. But here's the coach talking about the sprained ankle of JJ McCarthy and his status for Sunday against the Bengals.
JJ McCarthy, did come in very, very sore today with the ankle sprain. I would anticipate we are not planning on having him for Sunday, and don't likely see this being any kind of short-term IR thing, but I do want to see, and Tyler and the group want to see how he responds, to treatment this week. But, give him a ton of credit, just the toughness to get that thing taped up and keep playing. But yeah, that is something that we were able to determine today. So obviously tough news there.
Yeah, and then Kevin, from last night from the post-game presser, talking about the game as a whole.
It was one of those games where, once again, only 46 plays. We just, we've got to find a way as a group. It's going to be easy to try to put the microscope on JJ, and there's certainly some plays, some throws, some things that I'm sure he would love to, get another out at. But I thought he also, when we did move it, I thought he made some throws, and I thought he showed his athleticism, and just as a group, we did not execute to our standard, and it kind of moved from guy to guy at times, and either a mental lapse or physical lapse. But either way, the negatives start to mount, and you're just not doing enough to give yourself a chance to actually win the football game.
First and goal with the 2, the delay of game.
Yeah, we changed personnels. They told me they saw somebody step off our sideline from very much further back and once we had made our substitution, that's why they held it. I got to go back and see it. Obviously, I'm looking down at the area around the goal line. But my expectation was, at some point during that end of clock sequence there, he would, when they had an opportunity to sub, he would step away. And, he just didn't.
Yeah, that really, I think, along with that fourth quarter fumble by McCarthy, that sequence in the second quarter, Vikings are trailing 6-0 at the time. They hit 2 big plays to Thielen on a 3rd and 18, which was one of those really good throws that O'Connell's talking about that McCarthy made. Then he picks a great throw to Naylor at the 2-yard line, sets up first and goal at the 2. And then what a fiasco after that. The first play, JJ fumbles the snap or fumbles as he's kind of rolling out, and he would have had Jefferson open, had to throw it away. Second down is just a messed up play that they had, and he gets sacked on that play. Third down, there's a sack, and all of a sudden you're sitting there having to settle for a field goal when you have first and goal at the 2. And but the play that really, I think, bothered everybody in Viking land was the official on second and goal from the 2 is standing over the ball and won't let them snap the ball as the clock's running down. Now, I also would say Kevin O'Connell or JJ McCarthy, call timeout.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't want to go from second and goal at the 2 to second and goal at the 7, which is what happened when they took a delay of game. So that's on the coach and quarterback in that situation, but it's also on the officials to get the ball spotted, get the substitutions in and out, and also the coaches get the play call in. That was so messed up. And I think, again, a huge sequence in that game. So We know that some of the stuff that happened, and just a couple other things in the game in general.
Yeah.
You got to target Justin Jefferson more. 6 targets in the game, 3 catches for 81 yards after he torched Atlanta last year. Now, I understand their pass rush is much better. Those 2 first-round picks, Walker and Pierce, have made an impact on that team, clearly, and then signing Leonard Floyd in free agency, Floyd. But you still got to get the ball to those guys, even more short passes, quick passes, 3-step drops. If you're having trouble, you had injuries on the offensive line, get the ball to Jefferson, get the ball to Hawkinson. He's got 4 catches for 27 yards in 2 games. I was at training camp almost every day, and Hawkinson was targeted a lot by McCarthy. And I'm thinking he's going to have a huge year. He'll be the kind of the intermediate guy for McCarthy in his first year as a starter. They haven't gotten the ball to Hawkinson hardly at all.
No.
And in this game, he had 1 catch for 12 yards on 3 targets. That is inexcusable. So there's some things that have to change. And whether it's for McCarthy this week or if it's for Carson Wentz, we'll see what happens. But I think those are some of the things that have to happen. Run defense obviously has to be better. You're not going to face a Bijan Robinson every week. Avoid the penalties. Get after the quarterback. I think this team is too talented not to be a playoff team. And I think that they will rebound when they start getting these guys healthy. But it's got to start happening pretty quick here. And so we'll see how it shakes out. JJ McCarthy talking about his performance last night.
Obviously, a very disappointing loss. There's a lot of things that immediately come to my mind of just what we can do to get better. And, just want to give kudos to the defense. I thought they played absolutely outstanding. Will, absolutely played his butt off tonight. And we got to do a better job as an offense, just operating, playing, one play at a time and everyone executing their job, all 11 of us. But yeah, this is unfortunate, but I know we have a great, character, culture, locker room that we're going to respond from this and we're going to learn and get better and bounce back next week.
Anything that happened might surprise you. Did you experience anything you hadn't experienced in the NFL before?
You know what? I don't think, anything really surprised me. Every single game is just something new. I wouldn't say it took me by surprise, but we just got to do a better job of adapting, and taking advantage of opportunities when we're down in the red zone to get 7 points and not leave with just 3 on the board. And, there's a lot of things we got to clean up, but, it starts with me. I got to play better, and we got to do a better job operating this offense.
As we said, as both you and I said, AJ, I think we have to understand JJ McCarthy is a young quarterback, very talented guy, but he's learning on the fly in the NFL. 2 starts.
Keep in mind, Jeff, him and his wife just welcomed in their first child to the world.
I was just going to mention that.
Last week.
Just had a baby on Thursday and missed practice that day. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and he'll be fine eventually. He's got a great supporting cast around him. When they get that offensive line healthy, Christian Darrisaw makes a huge difference. So does Ryan Kelly when he's in there. But again, it's one of the things that I talked about before the season, the concern that offensive line looks much improved, but they've got to stay healthy. And Kelly missed time last year. Fries missed a bunch of games last year with a broken tibia or fibula, whatever. And Darrisaw missed half the season. So you got to stay healthy. That's a big factor for any NFL team. And the guys that come in got to do the job. Or you got to adjust your game plan, throw quicker, do other things, run the ball better, do whatever adjustments you have to make. And I just don't think they made enough of those adjustments in that Atlanta game. We'll see how it goes going forward, especially if Carson Wentz is the guy who has only been here a couple of weeks. And
would you, just really quick, would you rather see him, Carson Wentz, or Max Brosmer take the snaps this coming Sunday?
We might see both of them, and that could happen. I think you'd rather see the veteran in a big game at home. You need to win against a team in Cincinnati that has now lost Joe Burrow. They're all Pro Bowl quarterback. with a severe toe injury, and he's going to require surgery. So there's a lot going on for both teams injury wise coming to this game. It could be the battle of the backup quarterbacks. And if indeed Wentz is the guy, if I'm Kevin O'Connell, I'm not going to tip my hand too early on that. Make Cincinnati prepare for both of those guys, because McCarthy is more of a running threat than Wentz. So,
and we've already seen Kevin O'Connell do this sort of week by week thing with these backup quarterbacks. I mean, look at what he's been able to do with a Josh Dobbs in the past when he gets time. And I might be overstepping here, but it feels like Carson Wentz is maybe more accomplished and capable than Joshua Dobbs, being also a Super Bowl champion. So he's a guy that he's a guy that probably could pick up some sort of offense, and you could tailor a game plan to him a lot easier on a 1 week basis.
Yeah, even though he wasn't the guy that won the Super Bowl, that was Nick Foles, but he also won 13 games that year for Philly before he blew out his ACL. Let's hear again from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. Then we're going to talk about some great games over the weekend.
GMC trucks weren't built overnight. Like every American achievement, they are a result of dedication. A dedication to mastering the art of design and the science of engineering. To building upon prior knowledge, year after year, decade after decade. GMC, over 100 years dedicated to the art of engineering and the ambition to always move this country forward. We are professional grade. Well-qualified buyers get 0% APR on 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 Crew Cab models with a 5.3-liter engine with an average finance savings of $4,322 plus $1,500 bonus cash. That's a total value over $5,800 plus no monthly payments until next year. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 120 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from data financing. Some customers will not qualify. Savings based on bank rate of 5.64%. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/25.
So as we said, the Vikings host the 2-0 Bengals on Sunday. Cincinnati rallied to beat Jacksonville 31-27. Jake Browning, another former Viking quarterback, came in and had an up and down day after Burrow injured his toe. Browning threw 2 touchdown passes, but also threw 3 interceptions. And he's not the player that Joe Burrow is, who I think is one of the best. But he did face the Vikings in Cincinnati in 2023, led the Bengals to a 27-24 overtime win in that game. That was one of the games that knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs that year. But in the win over Jacksonville, All-Pro receiver Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson's former teammate at LSU, he had 14 catches, 165 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's going to be a huge challenge for the Vikings if it's Browning, which is probably obviously going to be Browning this week. And very big challenge for the Vikings secondary. The pass rushers need to have an impact. They did have 3 sacks of Michael Penix Jr., who played okay. He didn't really have to do much. But when he did throw, he got the ball out quick, which is something that the Vikings need to do with McCarthy, certainly, especially with the offensive line banged up. And I think that's going to be an interesting game, certainly on Sunday. Vikings need a bounce back against the Bengals, who are feeling good at 2-0.
Yeah.
But I'd rather face a team that comes in off a win than comes in off a loss like Atlanta did.
Yeah. And they need to take advantage of that home field before they go on the road, not just on the road, but across the ocean for 2 weeks in a row. So they're gonna be really looking to make sure that they have their ducks in order and have a winning record before that international trip.
Yeah, and that's all true. And although they were fortunate that that international trip with games against Pittsburgh and Cleveland would have been road games in Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So big advantage to be at a neutral site. A couple other big games. Green Bay looked really solid again, beating Washington last week on Thursday night. Detroit rebounded in a big way against their former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, stuck it to him and the Bears 52-21. Jared Goff rebounded from a bad performance at Lambeau the week before, threw 5 touchdown passes, 3 to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Cowboys and Giants had a crazy game, 64-yard field goal to tie it, sent it to overtime. Then Russell Wilson throws for 450 and throws a terrible interception in overtime to set up the winning field goal. Philly beats Kansas City in Kansas City in the rematch of the Super Bowl. And as we said, the Vikings are going to face the Steelers in Dublin. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers got beat by Seattle at home in their home opener, and Rodgers threw a couple picks in that game. So we'll look forward to breaking down the Vikings and the Bengals, previewing that game. Maybe we'll know more about the quarterback situation on Thursday night on our Vikings show and our Purple Report. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via link from the Score North website. This is Jeff Diamond with AJ Fredrickson, and look forward to talking with you on Thursday to break down Vikings Bengals.